Okay, welcome everybody. Welcome to the Vulcan stream. Thank you. So I'm going to be talking to you today about TED Talks. I'm going to introduce TED Talks of the Vulcan project. So we have 4 of our projects coming, but first of all I want to put some context for you so to see where those projects sit within the organization and how they work. So my name is James McDermott. I'm the head of Vulcan. I joined Vulcan in February this year. It's essentially an operations role, and there's been a significant investment from our members in growing the organization this year. And a byproduct of that is us appearing at events like this. So hopefully you'll see a little bit more of that today. So I skipped over this slide very quickly because I didn't want to be up at that level. But first of all, let me explain a little bit more about HL7. Sandy did a fantastic job for us in the plenary session, but those of you who didn't hear that, when I first joined Vulcan, my experience has been in pharmaceutical research. I haven't got that full experience of the standards development organizations across the whole of the data spectrum there. And so I spoke to some of our members who are on the steering committee, and Deepak Kalra said to me, James, a standards development organization is really balancing the tension between stability and agility. And we heard some of that from Sandy today. What you have with HL7 is a 40-year-old standards development organization that's ANSI accredited. It has processes and it releases controlled standards for use, and they are open source Creative Commons license standards. So it's a democratic access to that data. But what you have in that kind of controlled environment is you have less agility. And so as we heard, that HL7 started the accelerator programs, these projects that were focusing on specific areas. And Vulcan, who are here today, are one of those accelerators, as you can see amongst the other accelerators there. So who are Vulcan and what do we do? Well, we've developed our vision from the HL7 global vision, but our mission is to establish this global community that are accelerating interoperability in the research to care continuum through the adoption of HL7 FHIR. The research to care continuum is a phrase we're using to make sure we're inclusive of the federated, decentralized infrastructure that fills right the way down from when translational research is happening at one end, all the way down to electronic health records and real-world data at the other end when we're getting into the clinical care space. And as you imagine, that continuum has a number of separate systems with their own language, their own standards in there, and we see FHIR as the lingua franca, the communication tool that's going to bring all of those together. And we've got projects here today that are at both ends of that spectrum to show you what we're doing. We've got the UDP project, utilizing the digital protocol that is part of our work with ICH M11 to bring the standard protocol into an E format. And we've got real-world data and FHIR to OMOP, which is at the other end of the spectrum where we're looking at real-world clinical data. So I talked about the investment that our members were making. I'm going to talk about our members in a moment, but the significant change that we've made this year is to focus on a number of different strategic objectives. And I won't list them all out here, but I wanted to draw your attention to 3 of them because they're being addressed in this room today. Our first one is to be a truly global organization. And I'm using the word global rather than international. We have national interests that exist in our regulatory authorities in each of our domains. But a global organization goes above those national interests and still talks to them, but it goes above those, and that's what we are. We're expanding our activities into Europe. We've been in Europe for a while now as HL7, but Vulcan is expanding its presence in Europe and letting the European members know what we're doing. And we're also, in November, expanding our presence into Asia Pacific. We've been invited into the PMDA to do a workshop with them about the activities that we're doing there. And we're also holding a similar sort of summit to this with potential new members in Japan. So truly global. Also, the 6 years that Vulcan has been in existence, we've focused very much on the technology. We have 3 tiers of communication. We have the tier tier 1, which is getting to connectathons, hackathons, where we deal with the specific technology. Tier 2 is our ability to connect with those implementation guides with real use cases that you need in your operations, whether you're an agency wanting to receive data or you're a technology company wanting to transmit that data. And so we're focusing on adoption at this event. And so what we're looking for out of this event is not only for you to understand the implementation guide projects and their hope and desire to get more adoption globally, but also to come up with potential new projects that we could work on. And if you want to recommend a project, scan this code and go to our website, and there's a location there for you to recommend projects for us to be working on in the future. So that's the second strategic imperative that we're following. And then the other aspect is to complete the continuum. Anyone that knows Vulcan knows that we've started primarily in the clinical care space, and what we want to be able to do is to fill that full continuum. So we have those bookends I talked about with the UDP project, the protocol, the metadata that drives the research, and we've got the other end, which is the real-world data, the FHIR to OMOP, and pulling the data back down. Really talking to the plenary session this morning, really trying to speed up the transfer of data. We want research to inform clinical care as rapidly as possible, but that's a two-way street. We need clinical care, the clinical real-world data, to come back and inform the research proposals that are being put together. And our aim is to make sure that we're accelerating that process. So we are a diverse global community. We've identified 5 different groups of members here, and you can see that there are some founder members that got involved 6 years ago from other consortia, academia, government agencies, and a very strong contingent of our implementers and health tech have been big supporters of getting this project off the ground. And we're now going to biopharma and contract research organizations to get that full spectrum covered. It doesn't mean we don't want more members from all of these. And one of the things I would encourage you to do if you're already a member is to make sure you're disseminating the information around your entire organization. Yes, so this is our membership. This is who is driving us. And representatives of these member organizations are on the steering committee that developed the strategy for what Vulcan is doing. And so if you want to get involved and get in a position where your organization can be on the steering committee to do those, to lead those things, that's how you get involved. So what do we actually do? What is Vulcan doing as an organization in terms of developing IGs? Need to be very careful about using these acronyms. I didn't really understand what an IG was when I came in. It's an implementation guide. What does it look like? It's a very technical document that is saying how you map certain aspects together so that you can use the fast FHIR API to move your data between systems. But let's look at what we're doing here. It's going around this loop. We've got discovering new use cases, talking to people like yourself and the broader community and finding what use cases we need to be looking at and forming project teams around that use case. And these are volunteer members. And those volunteer members get together and form a project and then petition the steering committee for additional resources to help deliver on that project. We also try and drive adoption of those implementation guides through things like the Vulcan Interoperability Bridge, which was a hugely successful ASTP, formerly ONC, funded activity that they partnered with us to do that, where we looked at real use cases, and Sandy mentioned that this morning. If you want to find out more information, again, go to our website. We've got a microsite specifically dedicated to the Vulcan Interoperability Bridge there. Also, community building. We're working very hard to engage our community. We're building, we've got all the resources that HL7 provide. We've got our websites. We're setting up regular webinars and sharing information, and we're trying to build that community to get feedback globally on what we're doing and to make sure that we get the right people engaged. And at the heart of it, we're developing FHIR implementation guides. And these guides take a number of years. They have to be taken to, these projects that you're going to see today have taken their ideas to connectathons around the world to discuss what they're choosing, the options they're choosing. And one of the benefits that I see coming into this is that the balloting process that's used is a phrase I had to learn what was going on here. This is part of the adoption of the standard to make it go into the marketplace to be used by everybody. That balloting process, there are people from all other aspects of FHIR adoption sitting around those tables. You can go and ask their advice, and the balloting process makes sure that our choices that we make for mapping certain components together is consistent across the whole of the HL7 landscape, not just the research to care continuum. So if we make a particular selection of patient ID needs to be equal to this thing over here, then we have people that are in the payer to provider situation say, well, actually, we chose this option for it. This is the resource that we used. So ultimately, we're going to be able to not only accelerate information along that continuum we're talking about, we'll be able to reach out into the fuller landscape of what we're doing. Right, so another aspect of what we do is we host events. This is us hosting an event, and we're going to do more of this to get our members together with the community to have these conversations. And we also attend events, and we try and encourage our members to attend events. And we have a budget to support you in doing that, and we also have effort to support you in preparing material to present. So if you want to present on behalf of Vulcan at an event globally, please contact us, and we will help you do that. So we're pushing the message out there. If we don't talk about this, people won't know what we're doing. And then the other thing that we do is we are coordinating amongst other consortia, other standards development organizations, agencies like ICH, EMA, PMDA, FDA, making sure we're in the conversation about what's happening. This slide here is my penultimate slide. These are the current 8 implementation guide projects that we've got ongoing. 4 of them are in the room today. I won't read through this slide for you. You can go and have a look at, the same QR code is appearing up there. I really want you to go to the website. Can you tell that? And you can see some of these are at a stage of adoption. Some of them are in a different version. Some of them are under development. There's a whole process that's gone through, and that I'm encouraging you to get involved. You will see that when you're meeting some of our projects in a moment. So I wanted to put this slide up about the balloting process. I'm not going to talk about the bit at the end there. These are words I've had to learn. What does normative mean? What does STU mean? These are things that are being used in the community this is about creating a standard that is robust and secure and is able to be used globally. But what I wanted to point out to you was that having this ANSI accredited process does create trust and legitimacy. The governance around that, being an accelerator within HL7 gives us that trust and legitimacy to what we're doing. Also, the versioning, the controlled evolution of the standard, it's not the Wild West. I'm saying we've got agility with Vulcan, but we're not going into the Wild West. This is not a constantly changing standard, but it is a standard that needs to evolve in that environment. And so there will be frequent iteration and refinement going on, but that is happening in a controlled way at connectathons and with the agreement of the broader community. And also, this balloting process allows for the actual feedback from people that are using the implementation guides in the real world, and they can feed that information back in and inform subsequent versions of that. And hopefully, what we will get from this balloting process is a user and regulator confidence in that we've got a standard that will evolve responsibly. So that's my introduction. Hopefully now you understand a little bit about the framework. If you didn't know HL7 and Vulcan before, you can see how that fits in. But what we're really going to do now is dive into the detail of a number of 4 of our actual projects. So I'm hoping this is in the order. I think we're doing it in reverse order. So it's FHIR to OMOP is coming up first. So let me just flick onto FHIR to OMOP. So is Devira online? Later. Okay, so we're going to move on to... is someone moving the slides for me? Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Right, so the style of this, rather than us to give a lecture on the detail of the technical aspects of it, we've briefed representatives of the projects that are part of our member organizations to do a kind of TED Talk. And they'll give you an overview of what they want from the projects and what they're trying to achieve with the projects. And I would really encourage you to engage them in asking questions. So I will hand over to Gustav. Thank you.